are here with the Help Hope Heroes podcast.
Simmons Center, for me, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Recorded live at a homeless shelter.
I basically reinvented myself with the Simmons Center.
Our clients are the homeless, the addicted, those in poverty.
We fight the good fight.
Tear down some stigmas.
They taught me those life skills that I didn't have.
What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you?
If you come to the Simmons Center, you will be changed in a really good way.
All right, here we are with another episode of the Help Hope Heroes podcast. I am very excited today because a childhood dream of mine has always been to meet former Husker football players, and I'm sitting across from one right now, Ricky Simmons, from the 1983 class of wide receivers for our Nebraska football team. Ricky, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Michael. Very, very, very happy to be here, and I just want to say thank you in advance for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we are thrilled to have you here. We're thrilled to have you participating in a form or fashion in our organization. You came here not too long ago to speak to our hero clients.
Yes, I did, and it went really well. They were very respectful, and they seemed very receptive to my message.
That's great. That's great to hear. And I don't know if you ever get to see the impact that has because you leave, you know, you speak and then you leave. But I've heard people talking about it since it's happened. And we have a few people that come back on a recurring basis. So we'd love to have you back to talk to the heroes again. Okay. And we're going to dive into why you were the perfect person to talk to the heroes in a little bit. But let's back up here. For those of you that don't know, let's get to know Ricky a little bit, and then we'll get into why he's here, why he's part of the podcast today. Ricky, did you grow up in Nebraska?
No, actually, I grew up in a little small town about 30 minutes east of Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
A little town called Greenville. And growing up in this town, I didn't really like football all that much, but my parents was real big on it. So I had a little success in high school, and scholarship offers came in, and I hope your viewers don't mind, but I actually was going to go to Oklahoma at first. But
we don't mind because we know where you ended up.
Yeah. But yeah, I really thought I was going to Oklahoma until Tom Osbornes showed up at my house. And
okay, so that's a difference maker. Tom Osborne showed up at your house down in Texas.
Yes, and that he really impressed my parents. My parents are both now in heaven, but at that time they were very impressed with him, and so it wasn't something. It was 2-1, so it wasn't much of an argument.
He really has that calming demeanor, right? That's where you can address your parents. Or?
Yeah, the thing was Barry Switzer was there from Oklahoma, and and Barry's kind of a player's coach, and he was talking about a lot of things that was very interesting to the player, but my parents were more interested in what Coach Osborne had to say, which was basically more educational based.
Yeah, and building you into a man, right? We always heard that he's kind of a father figure for the players.
Oh, absolutely.
That come through there.
And that's to this very day. I mean, I still see him weekly. For the last 10 years, I see him weekly. And like I said, he came in and basically laid the foundation that 95% of our athletes graduate, where you're talking to two parents that are both school teachers with master's degrees.
Gotcha.
So that was pretty easy for him.
So what was it like growing up in that town outside of Dallas? Pre-football, pre-all that. What was that like for you?
It's the South. So, I mean, it was a different arena altogether. It's home, but there was a lot of issues going on down there with just the South, being the South.
Yeah.
And but I was fortunate enough to have two parents that were very educated, and they always had me to rise above that.
That's amazing. That's a great influence to have in your life, and then to get to move on to an influential person like Tom Osborne. So football, you were playing wide receiver. Was that always your position throughout high school?
No. In high school, I was actually a running back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. After the end of 10 games in my senior year, I led the state of Texas in rushing. And that was kind of why I wanted to go.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, well,
Texas is such a football state.
Right, and I wanted to go to Oklahoma because I wanted to run in the wishbone. I wanted to be one of those halfbacks. But Coach Osborne, when he stepped in and I got to Nebraska, the style of offense that they ran with the I formation, I really wasn't built for that, because I wasn't a big back. I was a speed back.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got here and I saw the size of some of their linebackers here, and I was like, running up the middle doesn't sound very inviting to me.
Yeah. Not going to have a very long career doing that, right?
So, the key to this thing is to stay healthy, and I didn't know if I could do that playing running back. So that's why I did the position change.
Position change to wide receiver. Now, who's throwing you the ball at that time?
Turner Gill.
Oh, I know that. I've heard that name.
Yeah, Turner Gill. Yeah, Turner Gill, he had a great career here at Nebraska as well. And actually it started off with my roommate was Nate Mason, who's now deceased, but Nate came here from my high school. So we came here together. He was a quarterback too. And he had an injury in his sophomore year, and then that's when Turner took over.
So we're going to talk a lot about advice you can give people today, but real quick, if there's somebody listening out there, some athlete that is considering choosing a college soon, is there any advice you could give on that topic?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't choose it just on the sports. I mean, the education is going to probably outlive the sports.
Yeah.
So, you know, make sure that they offer the type of education you want. And once you obtain that, get that understood, then you can look at the program.
Very good. Very good advice. So, Ricky, you played and you graduated in '83?
Yes.
Did you get a bachelor's degree?
No, I did not. I left early to go to the USFL.
USFL, okay.
Yeah, because they started in January. So I could have came back for the second semester and probably graduated, but I chose to go play ball, and then life happened.
Time to make money, huh?
Yeah, and plus, like I say, I was still planning to come back, but then, like I said, once I started playing ball, life happened.
What does that mean?
Life happens means I made some choices that weren't good, which led to where I'm at today.
So choices that weren't good, was that all after your time at Nebraska as a football player?
Yeah,
so everything was on the up and up, and you were doing all right throughout your time at Nebraska.
Yeah, and that's why I thought I could come back and and knock it out that one semester in the off season, but I got introduced to drugs.
Okay, what was that? I mean, how did that happen?
Well, it was kind of strange how it happened, actually, because I wasn't even thinking about it, but there was a guy on my team, which I don't like to talk about other people,
correct.
But there was a guy on my team that had an influence on me, and I tried some drugs with him one day, and I ended up getting hooked on it, and it was cocaine.
That was your first time ever trying drugs?
Yeah.
Like even before pot or anything like that?
Well, no, I had smoked pot in high school, and I snuck around at Nebraska doing it a little bit too, but nothing's I would consider really hard drugs and nothing until I got to the pros.
Okay. So, I mean, you say you got addicted just like right away? Like you just had to have more?
Yeah, the first night I did it, I mean, probably 30, 40 minutes into using, I got hooked. Yeah. And I didn't even know I was hooked.
Yeah.
Because I liked it.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just went day by day by day by day. And before I knew it, my whole rookie year, I've been doing cocaine.
Wow. Yeah. Now, were you doing this even while you were performing on the field?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would do drugs all night, play football all day, and it didn't seem to have much of an effect or a negative effect on my ability to play football. It just, my lifestyle was revolving around just getting high.
And what team were you on at this time?
The Washington Federals in the USFL. That's who drafted me out of Nebraska.
Okay. And how long did you end up playing professional football?
I played football for them. The league only lasted 2 years after I got in. And so it was my first year was Washington, and we lost so many games, they sold our team. We became the Orlando Renegades.
Okay.
Then the league folded after that season. And then I got picked up free agent by the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
And then before I could get a first game in with the Falcons, cocaine convinced me that football was getting in the way of my using.
My goodness.
So I basically quit the NFL to be a full-time drug addict.
Well, how are you gonna support that habit without a job?
Well, at that time, the first 2 years in the league, I never spent any money on it. It was always free.
Okay.
And so I banked, and I signed a $1.2 million contract, so I had money.
Gotcha.
And then when I signed another big contract with Atlanta, so I mean, I had money wasn't a problem. And plus, I didn't come from a broken, poor family.
Yeah.
So I had parents that were financially okay as well.
Gotcha.
So I was able to survive quite a while before the rock bottom part came.
So did people that know you or people around you while you were actively using for what? How many years? It sounds like multiple years in a row.
I did the math on it. I actually did cocaine for 25 years total.
My goodness.
Yeah. But see, what you got to understand is it wasn't all consistently straight 25 years because I had gotten a lot of trouble.
Gotcha.
So I ended up going from the NFL to prison 4 times.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I went to 10 treatment centers, which I graduated 9 of them. So I would
Amazing.
have breaks here and there.
Yep.
But for the most part, every chance I got my freedom back, I was back on drugs.
For 25 years.
25 years.
So what's the first time you went to prison? What was that for?
Everything's been for possession of cocaine.
Every time.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And then they just added more and more years on every time?
Every time. First 2 times in Texas. Then they said, well, you come back again, we're going to give you 25 and going up. So I moved to Nebraska.
Yeah.
End up 2 more times here.
Okay.
So after the 4th time being incarcerated, I decided to just change everything because I received some encouragement while I was incarcerated from Coach Osborne. I received a letter, like a paragraph. And this letter was very simple, but it was a difference maker in my life. I actually memorized the letter. It said, Dear Ricky, I know your parents believed in you. I believe in you. And upon your release, if there's anything I can do to help you, feel free to contact me. And it was signed Tom Osborne.
Wow.
And right then and there in my prison cell, I fell on my knees and I turned my life over to God. I'm a spiritual man today.
That's
and
a surrender.
And I believe in God.
That is such a, that's the type of story that gives you chills.
Yeah, well, it's a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing about my speaking that I do around the country. I tell people the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not proud of it,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping that someone can learn from it and not have to go through what I had to go through to get there.
Absolutely.
A lot of people want to hide their addiction or they want to hide whatever their faults are to make themselves feel good or look good in somebody else's eyes. But no offense, Michael, I just met you, but I'm not here trying to impress you or your audience.
Gotcha.
I'm just telling them the truth because society got the lies and negativity already covered. They don't need my help.
I know. I was just going to say that's what the world needs more of is people like that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just joking. I just come from doing 2 speeches on the other side of Omaha before I got here, and one of the things that I told both groups was I suffer from a disease called high self-esteem. So it doesn't bother me to tell people the truth because I'm not concerned about what they think of me.
Yep. It's a rare disease these days.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't understand that. They got a little more of an ego thing.
Yeah.
Mine's high self-esteem.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it a lot. So you were in prison, and that was your 4th time, and it was for cocaine possession.
Yeah.
How much time were you looking at when you were in there and you received this letter?
I was still 3 years away from my freedom. And at that point, though, I was kind of just doing time. I didn't really have a purpose. I wasn't suicidal or nothing like that. I just didn't have an idea. At that point, I had lost my parents. They were in heaven, so I wasn't receiving a bunch of mail or I wasn't receiving visits. So I just really didn't know what I was doing. And then when that letter came, it just it made me feel like there was someone that actually cared again.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I mean, I turned everything over to God, and I haven't looked back. This is July 20th, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This past June 4th, I celebrated 10 years clean sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't do anything. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do anything. I did splurge last night and drink a raspberry tea.
Ooh.
Man, I was living on the edge.
Does it have caffeine in it?
Yeah, just a little bit. So I had a little bit of a little jolt there, but other than that, I drink water and coffee. And I'll share another funny story with you too. A lot of people don't understand it, but 10 years ago when I got out of prison, I started drinking coffee every morning. At 3 a.m., I turn my life over to God every morning, and I do a set of spiritual readings, and then I drink coffee out of a prison mug. It doesn't make sense to nobody, but see, the point is, the moral of that story is, every time I drink coffee out of that prison mug, it reminds me of where I got it from.
Yeah.
And it works fine. I don't need to go back and get another one.
And this ritual also reminds you of the time that you surrendered and turned your life over to God. It's a lot like how people review Easter and talk about the death on the cross. And so I can see that.
Well, see, the whole thing is, Michael, you got to understand what works for me may not work for nobody else.
Yeah.
And see, and that's what I try to challenge people to do when I go and speak. Figure out what works for you, and don't worry about whether it makes sense to me or anyone else, just as long as it's keeping you on the path that you need to be on.
Correct. So when you're out there speaking, you're not always, it's not always going to be God related. You'll talk about your own spiritual influence, and I think we see that a lot in AA speakers or
Yeah.
12-step speakers is.
Yeah.
They talk about higher power.
Yeah, well, basically what I do in my presentations is usually the first 30 minutes is just straight throwing Ricky under the bus.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of times when you're speaking to people, and I've seen this over and over and over, a lot of times people feel like you're talking down to them. But if you'll spend a few minutes throwing yourself under the bus,
Yep.
then they'll realize that, hey, here's somebody that's probably worse than me. And if he can get it right, there's hope for me.
Makes total sense.
And that's kind of the philosophy. Before I even start to try to educate, I throw myself under the bus.
You getting any of this advice from Tom Osborne? I mean, he's a doctor of psychology.
Yeah,
so.
well, see, the thing with Coach Osborne is, you know, he's always encouraged me to be honest, you know. And I'm not, like I say, Michael, please, and I want your viewers to understand, I'm not proud of all this stuff. It ain't,
Correct.
It's just that it needs to be said, and people need to be honest, because until you can be honest about your addiction, you're probably going to stay in it.
Correct.
So I try my best to stay focused on being honest about my addiction. Am I perfect? Oh, absolutely not. But I know what I don't do, and that's drugs and alcohol.
Yep. A lot of what we talk about here is, you know, the denial aspect. You can't be in denial of what's wrong.
Yeah, well, see, denial will keep you sick.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Denial will keep you sick. And what I mean by that is you can justify your using. You can keep using because, man, I ain't really got a problem. I can stop whenever I want. I just don't really want to right now. Then that leads to, well, in Colorado it's legal. Well, you know, all that. I mean, you start making up excuses. Yep. You know, and the only thing I can say to people that think like that is, well, you ain't moved yet.
Yeah.
You know, go on to Colorado if that's what you feel. Because you try that around here in Nebraska, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some consequences.
You're going to get some consequences.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to touch on, too, that you mentioned is it was the first time that it felt like somebody cared. So something we do here in our homeless shelter, we have a Rebus closet, and that's home to brand new items. So every new client coming into our homeless shelter, they get an opportunity to get brand new undergarments, socks, some shorts, a T-shirt.
Oh, wow.
That's the first time in a while for a lot of our people that they receive compassion.
Yeah, I can see that.
And another thing is, you know, Help Hope Heroes podcast. Help Hope Heroes is our tagline. The first thing that comes is the help. And a lot of the times it's that reach out by Dr. Tom. It's that letter. It shows the compassion.
Right.
And then I'd imagine shortly after you received hope.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So,
yeah, I mean, as soon as I received the letter, then that's the first thing I did was just fell on my knees.
Yeah.
And I got to back up a little bit just to share this with your listeners because I think this is important. In 2005 and 6, I took care of my parents back in Texas. They was getting elderly, and mom had dementia. Dad was on a walker, so I moved back to Texas to take care of them. I wasn't healthy at that time. I was still active using, but I was there for them. And one night, my dad, he came up to me about 10 at night, and I was actually in my room using. And I heard that walker coming up the hall, and it kind of scared me. And then, you know, he got my attention, and when I went out in the hall, I was like, "What's going on, Dad?" He's like, "I need you to promise me 3 things." And I was like, "Sure, Dad." He said, "No, say you promise." I said, "I promise." The first thing was, he said, "Promise me you'll never give up," because he knew I was still actively using. And then the next thing he said was, at some point, put God in your life. And I said, "Okay, I promise." And then he said, and the third thing, he said, "For the rest of your life, every day you're blessed to see, you get up and look like somebody. Do that for me, Ricky." And the next day he had a stroke and never talked to me again. So I'm highly motivated to do what I do.
That is an incredible story. That is an incredible story. Kind of reminds me of something I went through with my father. So if I seem like I got a little choked up, but
no, it's okay.
It's incredible. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people, they watch our podcast, they listen to these stories. It's incredibly tough to share. I mean, you've been doing it a lot, so it's getting easier and easier, but it does take bravery. It does take some courage to share. What if there's somebody out there that could share a story like yours? What would you say to them? What would, get them moving?
Well, see, the thing is, Mike, everybody's an individual, which means we're all different.
Yep.
See, and one thing, and I don't want to sound funny when I say this, but see, it wasn't never tough for me once I made the decision to turn my life around.
Yeah.
I started off talking this serious 10 years ago. And it hasn't really changed since then.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, like I say, is high self-esteem, which I had all along because it was instilled in me as a child. It has nothing to do with my ego. It has everything to do with my high self-esteem. See, I believe in me. I just lost my way because of drugs.
Yep.
And a person that wants to do what I do, I always make sure that they understand that you need to live a certain way to do this. And what I mean by that is, if you want to speak to people about drugs and alcohol, you can't be doing drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not judging anyone. That's not my job. But
Right.
I just think that's hypocritical to me.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're gonna, if you're gonna speak about relationships, that's one thing. If you're in a good relationship and you'll want to drink and smoke. But if you want to talk to someone about drugs and alcohol, the first thing you need to do is don't be doing drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I've actually had people ask me for relationship advice. I've been divorced 11 years. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I narrow my area down to drugs and alcohol. I'm not trying to.
And it's not hypocritical, because
Yeah.
you're walking the walk, talking the talk.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, like I say, I'll be the first to admit I'm not perfect. I got some things that probably most people might not approve of. But the one thing I know that I'm doing that's right is I'm not going out speaking to these large groups like I'm doing. And then soon as I'm done, I run to the bar.
Yeah.
Or I run over to the shady side of town and
Yeah.
get, and get a package. I don't, no, I'm not doing that.
Great points to make. So Ricky Simmons here on our Help Hope Heroes podcast. So we have our HERO program, which you've spoken to. That's an acronym that stands for Health, Empowerment, Responsibility, and Opportunity. So we're going to step through that real quick.
Okay.
What has being sober for 10 years done for Ricky's health?
Wow. Actually, I really can't even put it in words, because the way I look at it is I just feel good on the inside.
Yeah.
And I think the probably the most beneficial thing is it gave me peace of mind.
Yeah.
Because when I drive around now, like when I was trying to find this place, I was going all crazy. I'm driving crazy and switching lanes because GPS was running me in circles. I wasn't worried about if a police stopped me, I would have something in the car that would prevent me from making it here.
Yeah.
So it's just a peace of mind thing for me.
Well put. What has it done for empowerment?
Well, what it has done for empowerment, I would say, is encouraged me and inspired me to continue doing what I do, which is trying to help as many people as I can. But the thing about me, though, I'm a little different than you guys. I only try to help people that want to be helped.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be helped, hey, I'll gracefully get out of your way, because I understand some people may not be ready.
Yeah, that's very, very well put, because, we do get a lot of folks coming to our rehab facility that are court ordered.
Yeah.
And so at first, and I've interviewed quite a few people where they're told me, the first 2 months they're faking it till they make it. Fake it till you make it, fake it till you.
Yeah.
But then eventually that light bulb does go off. They have that moment of surrender. Not for everybody.
Right.
But, and that's got to be incredibly difficult. So hats off to the folks at our HERO program and our therapists over there that are doing this on a daily. I mean, imagine the frustration when you have people in front of you not taking your advice seriously on a daily basis. So hats off to them, and to everybody out there that does anything in the drug rehab world.
It's a thankless job a lot of times.
Yeah, and they keep doing it though, because they see the one time it works, it keeps them coming. It's like golfing; you get that one shot.
Yeah.
That's why you go back.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this too. I'm a licensed drug and alcohol counselor.
Okay.
I have a provisional license, but the thing about I haven't seen a client in 5 years because the speaking has taken off to a level to where it doesn't give me the time to commit to a client. And I'm okay with that, because I feel like I'm reaching people all over the country versus just in my immediate area.
And I think that's something that happens, is eventually you want to be able to spread your impact as far as you can. And when you see that opportunity, who are you to pass that up? God's putting that in your path.
Absolutely.
It'd be arrogant to say, no, I'm not going to do it. Right.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
And that's basically why I do what I do.
Man, this is so fun. All right. So responsibility. Responsibility. What has it
Yeah.
done for your responsibility?
Responsibility, I put that right along with accountability. It's made me very accountable.
Yep.
I've been almost, I guess you could say I'm anal, because it makes me attention to detail. And my word actually means something. Like I said, I've done 2 speeches this morning.
Yep.
And I live in Lincoln. And where am I at? I could be on my way back to Lincoln.
In South Omaha.
Yeah.
Getting farther and farther away from Lincoln.
That's
right
what
now.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
But see, I gave you my word a little while ago that I'd be here.
Yep.
So that's part of the accountability and responsibility that I feel that this platform carries.
Really appreciate that, Ricky. And then opportunity, and that'll segue right into your speaking stuff. But
Yeah.
opportunities,
man. I can't thank God enough for the opportunities that he's put before me. I actually have stuff that's scheduled through 2021 already on my book.
Wow.
I actually look at it, my schedule 1 month at a time, because if I look at it for a whole year, then I'll be like, no way. But as long as I keep it within a month frame, then it's more doable for me.
Absolutely. So he just mentioned his book, and I just received a signed copy today, actually, which was a nice surprise, and I'm thrilled. I have not read it yet, so I can't comment on it, but
That's
I imagine
okay.
it's a good read. We have The Explosion of Redemption, Trying to Win the Game of Personal Forgiveness in Life, the journey of former NFL player Ricky C. Simmons. How long has the book been around, Ricky?
The book came out September of 17.
Okay.
And what I've been doing is I've been basically, as I go and speak, I set up a little display at all my speaking events, and then I sell my book afterwards. And also I sell it through my website, which is rickycsimmons.org.
Yep. rickycsimmons.org. So you can buy it on the website, or
Yeah.
if you were to actually attend one of your speeches.
Yeah.
Now, usually when you're speaking, are you speaking at rehab clinics, or are you speaking at schools, or like
Yeah.
if you were going to be in the area and I just wanted to go?
Yeah. It's Michael, I speak everywhere.
Yeah.
I just got booked to speak at an elementary school in Garland, Texas, right outside of Dallas as well. Going there right after, I think that's the day after Labor Day. Then I got to speak at my middle school in Greenville, Texas.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, they hired me to come and speak there on the, I think it's the 5th of September. Then I'll leave on the 6th, heading to Tulsa. I play in this golf classic every year. It's former Huskers against former Sooners, and we raise money for the Ronald McDonald's House, the
Yeah, I've
Children's
heard of that.
Hospital. And then I'll leave there and then go to Oklahoma City and do a meet and greet, which I think actually Barry Switzer is going to hopefully be in attendance to that. Him and the guy that recruited me he was a recruiter for Oklahoma, then he got the job in Nebraska. His name is Jerry Pettibone,
Yep.
and he'll be there. So, I mean, basically, I just got stuff on top of stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm very pleased. I'm not complaining at
Yeah.
all. I mean, I feel very blessed that I get the opportunity to travel the country and educate our youth and adults. It started off as a high school and up, but over the last 10 years, it's eased down in the middle school, and now, as I said, elementary schools are reaching out.
Imagine you switch your speech up a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit
yes.
based on audience.
Yes, and that's another thing I want your viewers to know. I have I call it, just for clarification purposes, I have a rated G speech, I have a PG speech,
Yep.
I have a rated R speech,
Yep.
and when I go into like prisons and stuff, there's a much more serious
NC-17, I think,
Yeah.
is the next grade up. That's what they had.
Yeah, so it can get to be kind of intense in the prisons because, and out of fairness, you can't. I've been in prison, so I understand that you can't go into a prison talking like I'm in a church.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll work for a small portion of them, but a lot of those guys, you're gonna have to come correct, or
Yep.
you won't even reach them. So I go get my audience wherever they're at. I mean, I got a message for churches that's totally G-rated.
Yeah.
Then I adjust to wherever my audience is.
Where do you think this ability to speak to people came from? I mean, you're so easy to talk to. I mean, is it just something you're born with type thing, or
yeah,
has it always been easy for you?
Yeah, my parents, I give them a lot of credit for it because, and this is no knock against anybody, but my parents always raised me to be able to speak.
Yeah.
Like reading, writing, speaking. I mean, these things. That way people can understand you and you can get your point across.
Yep.
But when you're looking down at people's shoes, or if every other word is
Yeah.
you can tend to lose people.
Yep, absolutely. So rickycsimmons.org. You can go there for more information about how to book him to be a speaker. right?
Absolutely, yes.
You can go there to get a copy of his book. We
Yes.
encourage you to do so. And then I'm also looking at a card here for RCS Triumph Foundation.
Yes.
That is the Ricky C. Simmons Foundation.
Yes.
And that helps you travel to these speeches.
Right. Well, see, you got to always remember a lot of the people that I'm trying to reach, usually they're run into a lot of situations where there's not a lot of funding.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say if someone in a different state, man, we really want you to come and speak, but we don't have the funding to pay you.
Yep.
So I started a 501c3 where people could donate, and it's fully registered, and they can write it off.
Yeah.
And I use the funds to go and try to travel around or wherever there's a need.
Yeah.
I try to go and provide that.
Can you receive donations online at your website, or?
No, I haven't set that up.
I'm going to have to help you set that up.
Yeah,
That's something I can do for you.
Yeah,
we're
well,
so honored to have you here.
Well, I appreciate that, because right now it's just that address on the card. I just have people to just send their checks there.
Okay. All right. So if you want to find out more information about Ricky Simmons, you can also follow him on Twitter at Ricky C. Simmons. You got Facebook, which is Ricky.Simmons, and then you can go on Instagram, which is Simmons Ricky. So
Correct.
Ricky Simmons was taken on Instagram.
Yeah.
Simmons Ricky. Yeah. So I'm reading the back of the card here. Learn from the mistakes of others. You can't live long enough to make them all yourself. Is that an original quote?
Yeah, well, I was given that plaque by someone, and I liked it. And that's one thing I'm humble enough to admit, that I can learn from others as well. So when I read that, I'm like, I like that. So I put it on there. I mean,
it's good stuff.
There's another one that I live by as well. As Maya Angelou has a quote that says, "When people show you who they are, believe them."
I like it.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. All right, just a couple more questions here.
Okay.
When it's all said and done, Ricky, when you're in heaven,
Okay.
what do you want people to remember you for?
He had a lot of faults, and he made a ton of mistakes. But when he did figure his life out, he spent the rest of his life trying to make it right and trying to make his parents in heaven proud of him.
Fantastic. I think that's something a lot of people probably can relate to. I know personally I can.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I've made enough mistakes for everybody that I know.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make it right. I mean, I'll never be perfect. I get that, but I'm going to do the best I can to make things right. Because like I said, I have dedicated the rest of my life to making my parents in heaven proud of me. That's a real statement.
Yeah.
And that's a quote from me.
So humble. Such a kind guy. Took time out of your day to come to this little podcast.
Well,
so cool. And just so honored. I got two more questions still. I got another one I just came
that's
up with.
fine. Yeah.
How do I get to the weekly meeting with Tom Osbornes status?
Good luck with
He's
that one.
like my child, somebody I've looked up to my whole life.
He's a very difficult man for me to catch.
I know.
But
I'll keep trying every chance I get.
Yeah, I've been fairly lucky, and I think he even accused me. He said, "Ricky, I think you put a tracking device on my car because you always know when I'm here." But my office is actually 2 blocks from his office.
Yeah.
So, and my foundation bank is actually in the bank. His office is in the back of that bank. So sometimes I'm in there doing foundations.
Just popping in.
Yeah. And I know his vehicle too. So I see his vehicle, I'll pop in on my way to my office.
Well, I'll tag along one day.
Yeah, but the one thing about it is, and I want everybody to understand, when I say I've been meeting with him for the last 10 years, that's a very brief meet in most cases.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand he's a very busy man.
Yes.
So it goes a lot like, I'll walk in, he'll go, "Hey, Ricky, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good, Coach. How you doing?" "I'm good." And he says, "Have a seat." And I'll be like, "Nope." And he's like, "Well, what's going on?" And I'll say, "Well, I just want you to look me in the eye and see that I'm still doing the right things and I'm still using you as a reference." And he says, "Well, we've been hearing good things, and when they call here, we'll be waiting on them." I said, "All right, Coach, see you next week." Then I'm gone.
Wow.
2 minutes.
What incredible little moments that you get to have there.
Oh,
and that's cool. You go back to prove to them. You can look them in the eye and just say, "Look, that letter still works."
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of pride in that, because to me, he didn't have to do that.
Yep.
And if he hadn't have done it, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
So I'm just thankful, and I'm humble enough to admit it.
Good stuff. All right. The final question we ask every guest on this show.
Yeah.
It's our tagline here at Stevens Center. It's also the name of the podcast. What does Help, Hope, Heroes mean to Ricky Simmons?
I believe help, hope, heroes means we're here to give you a chance if you want to help yourself. I think that's the most important thing, because no matter what you offer a person, if they're not willing to meet you at least halfway, there's not a whole lot you can do.
We see that every day here, so it's very true. Well said, well put.
Thank you.
That is going to bring us to the end of our episode of Help, Hope, Heroes podcast. Make sure you go down and whoop up on these Oklahoma Sooners when you go golfing.
Oh, yeah.
We don't get to play them in football, so we
will next year.
We want to claim victory in one way. Oh, we are, aren't we?
Yeah, they're back on the schedule next year, so I got to go down there and soften them up a little bit.
Exactly.
But my golf game still needs a little work. So.
I know. Everybody's does, I think, right?
Every time I think I got it figured out, it lets me know that I haven't.
Just like life.
Exactly.
That's why it's a great game.
I love it.
All right, Ricky. Thank you so much for the time. Such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.
Okay.
We're here with the Help Hope Heroes podcast,
Stevens Center, for me, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
recorded live at a homeless shelter.
I basically reinvented myself with the Stevens Center.
Our clients are the homeless, the addicted, those in poverty.
We fight the good fight.
Tear down some stigmas.
They taught me those life skills that I didn't have.
What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you?
If you come to the Stevens Center, you will be changed in a really good way.